Chapter 15 of the Alps, the Danube, and the Near East. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Betty B. Austria, the Republic. When the World War ended, Austria found herself in a desperate condition. The peace treaties had stripped her of the bulk of her territory, and the nation felt that it had not enough left to make life worth living. Its money became unstable. It rose and fell overnight. The merchant dared not buy, fearing that he could not get back the cost of his goods when he sold them. The banker saw the value of his loans shrinking. The laborer could not tell what his wages would be worth when he got them, and the housewife could not calculate her expenses. The national credit was wiped out, and disintegration and complete ruin seemed certain. In this situation, Austria's statesmen consulted with their neighbors, Italy and Czechoslovakia, and with other powers. It was decided, as a forlorn hope in a desperate case, to appeal to the League of Nations for help. In the Palace of Nations at Geneva, the financial, commercial, and technical experts drew up a plan for an international loan. Austria agreed to it, and the Parliament at Vienna passed measures engaging that the scheme should be carried out in every particular. Then the League sent a representative here to control all matters relating to the loan and to act as a sort of trustee for the nation, and the task of rebuilding Austria was begun. To make you understand the size of the job, I shall have to compare Austria with the United States. We will suppose that our country has gone through a great war and the government and people are bankrupt. We are desperate, and we ask some outsiders to suggest a plan of salvation. They look into our affairs and tell us, for one thing, that we have too many government officials and that 1 out of every 3 must be discharged. Where a post office has 3 clerks, it must get on with 2, and where there are 30 men on a government job, 10 must be released. With only 6 million people, Austria had at Vienna as many state employees as when her population numbered 50 million. There were 300,000 civil servants, of whom it was agreed 100,000 must go within 2 years. Think what a fuss it would make in the United States if 1 out of every 3 of our government workers were dismissed. Moreover, suppose our Congress should be forced to cut its appropriations about 40%. It will spend over 3,000 millions this year, but suppose it were told that for every dollar formerly expended, it might now have only 60 cents. You remember how our people objected to the proposal of a tax of 1% on all sales. The League demanded that such a tax be collected, and the Austrians are now paying it. For every dollar's worth of goods bought, 1 cent goes to the government, and for every $10 spent, 10 cents drops into the treasury. This sales tax yields a big revenue. The government was required to reorganize the railroads and other public services. It stopped printing money and created a national bank, which can issue notes only when there is gold collateral to support them. The stock for that bank, amounting to about $6 million, was subscribed as soon as it was issued, and the institution soon had double the reserve required by the law. And what has this cost the nations that underwrote the plan? So far, not 1 cent. They have lent only their credit by guaranteeing that Austria will pay back what she borrowed. The new debt is secured by the customs duties and tobacco monopoly, which had brought enough every year to meet the interest and cut down the principal. The loan was in the neighborhood of $200 million. 80% of it was guaranteed by Great Britain, France, Italy, and Czechoslovakia, and the rest by outsiders. It was oversubscribed, for people believed that it would surely be paid. The character of the Austrians was a factor in the success of this loan, for these people are known all over Europe as thrifty, hardworking, and peaceful. Dr. Grunberger, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, tells me that there is no danger of social revolution. He says that even though the people were starving when the Bolsheviks came up the Danube within 2 hours of Vienna, and down from Bavaria to within a like distance of the Austrian border, and when the radicals were pushing their propaganda in from Poland and Russia, there was no inclination here to join with them. The Austrians of today speak German and have a large amount of German blood, but they have intermarried with their neighbors and are like the Bavarians rather than the Prussians. They are a happy, easily contented and intelligent people with a marked ability to invent and contrive. Moreover, they are conservative and believe in businesslike methods, as is evidenced by the reputation of Vienna's banking community, which is famous everywhere for shrewd and skillful finance. When Austria came to re-examine her assets after the crisis was past, she found them by no means so poor as had been supposed. The old Austro-Hungarian Empire had a greater area than any country in Europe except Russia, and nearly half as many people as the United States has now. The Republic is just about 1/8 the size of the old empire and less than 1/3 as big as the former Austria alone. Today, Austria has 32,000 square miles, which means that it is only half as large as New England and yet bigger than many of the thriving countries of Europe. It is twice the size of Switzerland, almost 3 times that of Holland or Belgium, and more than 1/4 as large as Great Britain and Ireland. The country has double the population of Switzerland or Finland and more than twice the number of inhabitants in Denmark or Norway. Among the assets of Austria are its mines and its forests. Many think the land has no mineral resources. The truth is there is high-grade iron, a mountain of it, which in normal times yields 2 million tons of ore a year. That means 40,000 carloads, or enough to fill a train reaching from New York to Philadelphia. Most of this ore is used for making open hearth pig iron. There are now 250 iron mills, more than 100 machine shops, 7 locomotive works, and 9 automobile plants. The country has also magnesite, which it ships in large quantities to the United States, where it is used in the manufacture of paints, paper, and fire brick, as well as in the preparation of magnesia and Epsom salts. As to forests, the present Austria is more heavily wooded than any of the countries of Europe except Finland, Sweden, and Russia. A great deal of this is soft wood, and a large part of Western Europe is supplied with wood pulp from the Austrian forests. The paper mills of the country are turning out 150,000 tons of mechanical pulp and almost that much cellulose every year. They are making 180,000 tons of paper, much of it newsprint, which is shipped all over the world. It is true that Austria has now no black coal to speak of, yet she has many waterfalls that will develop electricity. Only a small proportion of the possibilities have been exploited, but the available powers are nearly equal to those of Switzerland and almost half as great as those of France or Italy. Already the government has begun to electrify the railroads, and a project is underway which will ultimately save in the neighborhood of 500,000 tons of coal annually. On my way up the Danube, I saw electric trains moving along the Austrian side, and I was told I could go from Bratislava to Vienna by trolley. I understand that the Austrians have invented a new electric locomotive superior to any we have in America. The government plans eventually to have all the railways electrified. It is estimated that full development of her water power would save Austria's railroads 3 million tons of coal, her industries and agriculture 4.5 million tons, and her households 1 million tons. In terms of money, that means a savings of $60 million. Austria cannot feed herself, and she will always have to rely to a certain extent upon her commerce and the products of her factories to pay for what cannot be raised on the farms. The farmlands put together equal a tract 1/5 the size of Ohio. They lie chiefly in the valley of the Danube in Lower Austria and on the slopes of the Alps. Much of the arable area is unfarmed, however, and Austria now raises less than half of her food requirements. It is estimated that with intensive effort she can increase this to 70%. Stock raising is important in many districts. Vorarlberg, Tyrol, Carinthia, and Styria breed fine cattle, and good horses are raised, especially in Salzburg. Parts of Carinthia and Styria hum with bees, which distill honey from acres of buckwheat blossoms. Austria is a land of factories. It turns out machinery, furniture, leather, and chemical goods. Its pianos are among the best in the world. Tens of thousands of its people are making ready-to-wear clothes, and other thousands are engaged in manufacturing lingerie and underwear. The country is still an important textile center, having 11,000 cotton looms with more than 1 million spindles, besides mills making woolens and linens. Such are the chief assets of the Austria arising from the ashes of humiliation and despair following the World War. The once proud monarchy is no more. The nobles and the haughty government officials have been pulled down from their high places. A spirit of democracy is abroad in the land. Realizing at last all that has happened, Austria has now put away her ambitions to be a great power in Europe, and has faced the fact of her lesser estate. Indeed, I am reminded of what the old colored woman said to one of her white ladies. She had asked when the latter intended to get married, and the lady had laughed and replied, "No, mammy, I'm not going to get married at all. I'm going to be an old maid." Mammy looked at her white friend for a minute and then said, "Yes'm, I reckon you is right. They tells me it's a lot better when you quit strugglin'." Austria seems to have quit struggling and to have decided to make the best of herself as she is. End of chapter 15.